It is Wednesday, September 18th, 2019. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. It was a very fun get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Wednesday. Did a little bit of ass kicking, not too much. Kept it on the down low, really focusing on my own movements and trying to conserve energy. You know, really taking my time, letting my opponents set themselves up, basically, and then just simply reacting and closing the last inch of that loop, you know? So, I don't think I got any chokes in. I think I got really close to one collar choke. But unfortunately, the bell saved him. But we were working some interesting stuff today, a little bit from the back. And just trying to get that additional hook in. You know, it's like if you've got the one hook in, but you can't get that other hook in, kind of snuggling over and sneaking that next hook in. And we also worked a really interesting move that I think I might actually employ. It's a variation on the bow and arrow choke. And apparently one of my teammates managed to get this on somebody during competition. And it is by far one of the wickedest submissions I've ever seen. And so basically what it starts out as is like you're behind your opponent and you've got a nice safety belt grip on him, right? And you're going for the back. You've got one hook in, but you can't get the other hook in. They've got their knee really high and they're defending that hole there, so you can't sneak it in any way you want to. So what Katie did was, and I only named her because it's all over YouTube and whatever. What she did was she hooked under her opponent's leg, okay, with her left arm. And she captured the one of the gi lapels with that. Basically, she had her in a cradle, and she snugged her up, and then she snuck her left leg, across on top of her opponent's right leg, okay, and was kind of cupping the outside of the thigh with her toes, right? So then she grabs for the gi, right? So she's grabbing for a choke, you know, so she's really pressing that choke, right? So her opponent disengages trying to block the leg now and is trying to defend the choke. Well, when she does that, she puts her arm completely out of the way, and all Katie does is she tightens up on that leg that she's got on the other side, right? And she extends the other leg. So she's got her opponent's left leg up in the air, and she's pulling that thing back to her ear. I mean, she's got it. You know, she's got a good leg lock there, and she's pulling it back. And in the meantime, she's got a choke going. She's got this fucking wicked fucking bow and arrow choke, and she's really deep on that lapel, you know. And so she just brings her chest forward just a little bit, tap. I mean, but literally, she had that leg so high, and I can't figure out whether her opponent submitted due to the choke or to the leg lock. I mean, because either one looked like they really hurt a lot. But so when I was trying that, one of the things that I noticed was that I had the weight of my opponent's leg over my arm. So after I've got the grip, right, I grab the lapel and with my right hand and then reach over it with my left hand and just let the weight of the leg pull my arm down. And now it straightens out that lapel, right? And so I can get a really snug grip way up there by their ear, right? And then tighten down on it. And I mean, I just started bringing my opponent around, and before I could get him to the point where, you know, the leg was going to be an issue or whatever, he tap. So really brutal choke. And like I said, I think that using the weight of my opponent's leg on my arm allowed me to get that lapel straight enough that I could get way up high on that lapel, get a really good deep grip. And that's what you want with that bow and arrow choke. You want to be deep in there, man, so that there's your skin is basically the thing that's choking them, not their lapel. It's your skin. So anyway, yeah, really, really neat choke. But it was funny. It's like we were an odd man. We had one additional person than we had partners for, and so like to begin with, I guess the instructor wasn't calling out that we were supposed to be going back and forth. So I go, you go, I go, you go, that kind of thing, right? And so like both times my teammates didn't hear that, and so it was just them on one side thinking that we're going to switch sides, and that didn't happen. Twice, two different guys. So I was just like, okay, what the hell's going on here? And then when we did this other thing, I had 3 guys to work with, or me and 2 other guys, and so it's like we had to go in 45-second intervals because we thought that we were only given that one side, and it was actually we're going to do that side, and then with the other your opponent top or the opponent bottom, whichever one wasn't top, they get to be top the second time, right? And so we ended up doing 6 rounds, 45 seconds apiece. That was kind of fun, but not enough time to really get into it, I mean, like I said, I think I came close to a choke at one point, but it wasn't during that round. It was one of the 6 rounds that I participated in a couple of. But anyway, like I said, not enough time to really get that ass kick maneuver in. I don't know. I need to hasten the pace of my game or something. I don't know. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. We're going to start off with some body count, as usual. Oh, and my deepest apologies for Monday, just to let you guys know. I was having some technical issues. My fucking hard drive was all loaded up with crap, and it was filling up with crap in the background. And so it's like, I had to go through my system and just clean out all kinds of shit. And so hopefully, this will go off completely without a hitch. And so here it is, body count, Ski Mask Way, first dance, here on Coin Metal. And that was 12-Foot Ninja with Coming For You. Yeah. And so, just to let you guys know, I've been working on this project for... Actually, it's been a lot longer than 4 years. 4 years has actually been the time that I've actually been working on it as a discrete project. But the preparation for doing it and... the whole inspirato for doing it and all the little bits and pieces I put into doing it came from my previous, I want to say probably 4, maybe 5 years of training. Just watching other people grow, seeing the things that they do, learning things I thought that were mistakes on their part, or at least experiments that I wanted to try and do on my part. And things that I thought would change or improve the output. And so I've been working on this project for a little while. It's just a little recreational thing, and this year it's turning out pretty damn good. I've got to admit. I mean, literally, I've got one out there, one little bud out there that it looks like a baby's fist. It's a little bit bigger, honestly, but it's one of those things that putting a lot of time and effort into actually pays off. Especially if you're paying attention to what's going on with your shit. Anyway, as far as what we're going to get... Oh, as for where I was going with that, I posted a little video of my current progress. And honestly, it looks a lot worse than it is. For whatever reason, the camera filter or whatever picked up the yellowness of one of my plants, and one of my plants is going through chlorosis right now, but it also had a bug issue at one point, and so it's like, anyway, I posted a video of it up on my YouTube channel, so if you care to check it out, along with any of the episodes you may have missed. I still have to upload the one for last Friday, but otherwise I'm pretty well caught up. Hopefully I'll get this one out nice and in a jiffy right after that Friday one. But as far as what we're going to get into today, a lot of scammery going out there. I've just been noticing like a little bit of an uptick, between commodities. I guess JP Morgan had some shit where, again, they've gotten busted with their traders manipulating prices of metals, and so yeah, we're going to start off with that. I was going to start off at some other point, but I think this one is appropriate. Just going to make a minor adjustment here. Oh, wait a minute. I sent that video to a friend, and I think he just messaged me back about it. Yeah, he's messaged. I'm sure he's very happy about it. He happens to enjoy the Naji as well as I do. It happened to be Justin Vendetta. For those of you who know, and yeah, here we go. Hi, Frank, an international friend. Would like to learn about Bitcoin mining. What? What? Oh, here we go. Just started flowering. When is it ready? November. No, it's ready in like 2 weeks, dude. That was one thing I noticed on the last stuff I sprayed. It kind of aged one of the plants a little bit. It seemed like it forwarded the development of a couple of the buds, like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 days, or 2 or 3 weeks rather, where the hair started turning amber on it a little bit early. But anyway, I moved this tab up. I just got to type back to Justin really quick. He's the developer for Virgin. One of these days we're going to have him on the show again. Haven't had him on in a long time, honestly. A few weeks actually. I started early. Live on show now. Alright, so as far as what we're getting into, we're going to start off with this JP Morgan business, because these guys keep getting busted. And the thing is this has been going on for decades. Peter Schiff has been yelling out, this shit has been going on. Max Kaiser, same thing. Dude, they're manipulating the fuck out of the goddamn silver market. Multiple times they gave us this warning. And now regulators there's no manipulation going on here. And so, it tells you what the fuck regulation is really good for. Regulation is good for kicking you the fuck out and keeping you out, and allowing the current fucking gluttons out there to keep enriching themselves off of all kinds of duplicity and fraud. Anyway, so this one's on Market Watch. Metal traders at JP Morgan charged with market manipulation, about 3 decades too late. Published September 16th, 2019 at 11:17 a.m. Eastern Time by Steve Goldstein. So yes, penis. The U.S. Department of Justice charged 2 current traders and 1 former metals trader for their alleged participation in a racketeering conspiracy over 8 years. It's been going on longer than that, dude. Greg Smith and Michael Nowak, both at JP Morgan. JPM is down 0.13%, and Christopher Jordan, who left in 2009 and worked at other banks after, were charged. The indictment alleges that between May 2008 and August 2016, the defendants engaged in widespread spoofing, market manipulation, and fraud for gold, silver, platinum, and palladium futures contracts while working on the precious metals desk at what the DOJ calls Bank A Nowak's lawyers in a settlement. Bank A. They calls Bank A. Okay. Nowak's lawyers in a settlement said he did nothing wrong and expect him to be exonerated. Reuters reported last week that Nowak and Smith were on leave, and 2 former JP Morgan traders, John Edmonds and Christian Truntz, have pleaded guilty to federal charges. I hope they continue to roll on people. Ooh, comments. Fraud is normal business at a big bank. Remember the LIBOR manipulation? And that was by Edward Gasser. Damn Skippy. And then Take the High Road says, lock 'em up. Yeah, I believe that is the appropriate response for some shit like this. But again, this shit's been going on for a hell of a lot longer than since 2008. A hell of a lot longer. I mean, really, why do you think that people thought that investing in those home loans and shit was a positive thing or a viable trade? It's because they were looking at metals, trying to find somewhere else to put the fucking money, because they're looking at the return on metals and they're saying, I can't earn shit by putting this in silver. I can't earn shit by putting this into gold. And every once in a while, these manipulators, like people will start catching wind that they're doing what they're doing, or they catch wind that somebody's investigating them or something, and so they let off. All of a sudden, people start making money on gold and silver, and then, it's back to the races after that, though. As soon as the spotlight turns off, they're back at it again. And so, I think that what we really have to do here is close down all of these regulatory entities, because all they do is set up a series of lists of things that if you communicate the proper information back to them, they will leave you the fuck alone. As long as the signals are good, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter how you're making your money. You could be making it in cocaine. You could be making it in fucking manipulating the price of silver or gold on the market. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you make it. You just have to provide the appropriate signals, grease the appropriate hands, and you can get away with whatever you want. Now, again, I feel like this is just like how I feel about steroids in use in like MMA and boxing and football and baseball, whatever. I say let people do it. They're going to fucking do it anyway. They're already taking that risk on their body. What we need to do is stop trying to stop them. Say, dude, you want to fuck up your body? That's fine. You do that, right? You do it. We don't care. Do whatever you want. Pump as much shit into your body as you want. If people don't want to fight you because they know you're juicing, that's their choice. They're going into it fully educated. That's the other thing. Use whatever the fuck you want, but tell us what the fuck you're using. Show us your damn schedule. If you want to compete at a professional level, that's fine. But I want to know, how much testosterone supplementation did you endure for how long? And 20 years later, when we look back at your health and we look at all the steroids that you used, we can get some actual actionable data from that. Okay, we can evaluate the results year after year after year, where you hit a peak and then you start going down and the supplementation isn't doing what it's supposed to do anymore, and you're experiencing all kinds of fucking issues with your colon and your prostate. We want to know that shit because we know people are going to use it. We just got to get over the illusion that people are not going to cheat wherever they possibly can. We need to get over that. What we have to provide is a means to examine it. Like with cryptocurrencies, we have the blockchain. We can see the movement of money. This is one of the things, in my mind at least, that disqualifies Ethereum ICOs from being securities. Because we don't have to trust the issuer of the token. We can examine the Ethereum blockchain and we can see the movement of gas. We can tell what the fuck is going on the network at any one time. Now, of course, there are exceptions with some projects, but for the most part, the movement of gas on the network from one person to another is regular. You can look at it all day long. That you could just sit there and watch it all day long. But you can't do that with a security. You have to trust that the issuer has the collateral and is able to pay out in the instance that there's some fucking issue with their security. That's the difference. Okay? In my mind, that's what disqualifies like 90% of ICOs out there from any kind of SEC regulation whatsoever, is that it doesn't fucking apply. And to that point, We've got this huge ass trader, JP Morgan, worth billions, if not trillions of fucking dollars on their asset sheets. And yet they're able to stay in business. They're able to commit a fraud for 8 years continuously. And these three people that they're running up the rail for it, I assure you, they have an entire fucking department or two dedicated to exactly this. And these are just little sacrificial lambs. This is just put people on notice and make people think that regulation does some good. The fact of the matter is that the damage that these people have done to the market is irreparable. People have gone bankrupt because their assets weren't appreciating the way they're supposed to against the US dollar because of this manipulation. And if you think that for one moment that regulation is going to stop that from happening in cryptocurrencies, you are lying to yourself. You're not fooling yourself, you're actively lying to yourself. They have failed continuously to prove that they are capable of regulating banks and they are capable of regulating entities like JP Morgan and keeping them from fucking everybody out of money, but they can't. And they are proven to fail at that day after day after day. And we fucking read about it here on this show. You know, when banks fail or Capital One loses access to, or at least loses the secure access to hundreds of millions of dollars worth of information that's going to be pilfered and sold out there, you know, oh well, shucky darn, move on. You know, you've potentially put somebody out of their house. Some asshole out there can get a hold of all that information, the fulls, as they call it, FULLZ, and start up bank accounts and bankrupt your ass. And do it with your social security number. So according to every record in the book, they are you, and you're doing that shit. You know, we have it happen now and then with people getting access to your cell phone and your full information and taking over your Gmail account and accessing your Coinbase account. We've seen all that. That's penny ante bullshit. The kind of information that's out there right now and the rate at which it's being stolen is just, it's absurd. But the fact of the matter is, and I've said this multiple times on the show, I think the biggest problem with the DHS and all of their surveillance mandates that they give to private companies on, you know, we want you to apply KYC, we want you to keep records on everybody. The problem is, there is no punishment. There's no sentencing schedule for when you get hacked and tens of millions of people lose their fucking information and it's sold on the black web. Or a dark web, rather than black. Yeah, dark web. You know, there's no sentencing schedule for that. You know, when a system admin fucks up and, you know, his girlfriend gets his fucking information and sells it on the dark web, and then somebody hacks in and steals all that information, you know, that system administrator is not punished, and he should be. He's fucking or she. I don't give a fuck who it is. They should be punished as badly, if not worse, than the goddamn hacker themselves, because 9 times out of 10, they're doing it willingly. They're doing it knowingly. Oh yeah, all you have to do is type in this at this time, and then you'll be able to do this. And yeah, that's all facilitated by people from the inside, whether willingly or knowingly or not. That's the soft underbelly for a lot of our systems. And again, there is not enough stress put on securing the information. Keep that shit encrypted. Keep it fucking air-gapped off the fucking internet, but do not allow it to be exposed. Do not allow it to fall into the wrong hands. You know, and again, I've said this multiple times too. If you do not collect it, it cannot be stolen from you. It is this requirement that information is kept, is retained, is recorded, that is creating the biggest danger to our security, our cybersecurity. It's the fact that the federal and state entities say, we want to know all of this shit about all of our citizens. When they do business with you, we want to know every fucking thing about it. It's the result of that. And we're going to find this out. Sooner or later, we are going to find this out. And the fallout from it is going to be significant enough that a legislator is finally going to say, you know what? Maybe it's not such a good idea to really get all this information. I mean, because in the long and short of it, we're not really getting anything out of storing all this information, and it actually costs money to store that information because people have to pay for hard drives, and there's this whole taxation, all this bullshit, and it's not really getting us anything. Terrorism still happens. Fucking mass shootings still happen. Fraud and manipulation of all sorts still happens. So what the fuck? Why are we even bothering? Anyway, so my next article here, it's on CNBC. Blockchain consulting firm allegedly extorted crypto startup with threats to hijack its initial coin offering. Doesn't that sound nice? This is by Kate Fazzini. My apologies, ma'am. But no penis. And this is published approximately 10 minutes ago. Interesting. It probably took that long for CNBC to actually catch up to it. This thing has been circulating through my Twitter feed pretty much all day long. Unless, let's try refreshing this. Might have actually happened a couple hours ago. Come on. There we go. Okay. Wednesday, September 18th at 3:06 p.m. Okay. No. Don't you fuck with me. Fucking people asking me to turn off my ad blocker. Fuck you. Anyway, continuing on. Where is it? Allegations threat. A New York blockchain consulting firm allegedly extorted a Seattle crypto startup with threats to hijack its initial coin offering in a case announced Wednesday by the Eastern District of New York prosecutor. The anonymous Seattle startup signed an agreement with Maple Ventures, an offshoot of Alchemist LLC, which purported to be a blockchain consulting firm and accelerator based in New York, according to a complaint filed by the Eastern District September 17th. That was yesterday. Okay. Allegations of threats, fraud, and extortion are a dark window into the fraud and strife that have dogged the cryptocurrency marketplace in recent years. The startup's owners, referred to as John and Jane Doe in the complaint, hired Maple Ventures to revise corporate paperwork, add advisors and strategic partnerships, and help facilitate a crowd sale of their Ethereum-based coin in July 2017, according to the complaint. A crowd sale is a type of crowdfunding specific to cryptocurrencies. Maple Ventures was to be paid in a percentage of the cryptocurrency tokens sold and funds raised by the anonymous company in the offering. Instead, Maple Ventures embarked on a campaign of extortion, according to prosecutors. Halady and Naryov did not immediately respond to requests for comment. In the fall of 2017, Maple Ventures CEO Steven Naryov and another executive, Michael Halady, allegedly contacted the defendants and demanded their startup agree to let him keep 30,000 Ethereum worth approximately $8.75 million that Maple Ventures had been holding for the coin's pre-sale. Otherwise, he would, quote, sabotage the crowd sale, generate negative press for their company, and use his contacts with influential people to destroy them. The complaint says Maple Ventures later demanded billions more in cryptocurrency and physically threatened one of the startup's principals who had been stranded in New York due to a snowstorm. The defendants appeared in court for the first time Wednesday. According to Eastern District of New York spokesperson, Naryov was released on $750,000 bond, and Halady appeared in federal court in Rhode Island and was ordered to appear in Brooklyn federal court next week. Lovely. Let me see if there's any responses on this thing. Nope. Interesting. So yeah, that happened a lot, and you know the The biggest problem is that people that are wanting to start up in cryptocurrencies, they're looking for quote unquote experts to show them the way, right? And the problem is that experts can't tell you jack shit. No, they can't. All they can tell you is what might happen. They can't tell you what will happen. And that's probably been one of the biggest problems in cryptocurrency. There's all these expectations of what the technology can do, and people are making a lot of judgments, according to what they think that a cryptocurrency should do. And then they get all pissed off when the market doesn't agree with them. You might think it's a great idea, but if you're having to ask people for money, it's probably not all that good an idea. I mean, cryptocurrency is money in and of itself. If you can't use it as money, it is not money, and therefore it's not a cryptocurrency. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And I haven't picked anything out. Here we go. A little bit of Voivod for you. Obsolete Beings here on Coin Metal. And that was Judas Priest with Pain and Pleasure. And if I ever get around to it, thinking about taking some of the footage from my last concert. And those of you who listen to this show probably know this already. But I went and saw the Melvins. I can't remember which day that was. I think it was Saturday. It might have been Sunday. One of the two. I don't know. Either way, it was a fucking epic show. Fucking epic show. Visually, I got some footage of it. Because I did as I normally do. And for each of the people that played, I got their first song for each one. And the first one, I think I told you guys about this. The first one was this guy, and he was just like tweaking sound. I don't know like what the whole point of it was, or like what he was doing totally, but like he had this visual element going on that was syncopated with the sound that he was making. And like I said, if I ever get around to it, I'm going to upload it. That one actually came out the best sounding. But when the Melvins came on, oh my God, it was just completely blown out. And, I was right next to the amps, and I was right next to the stage. So that could be the reason for it. And as far as like how I would present that material, I would probably take and copy it. Just the visual element of it, take out the sound and replace it with the song that they were playing. I mean, that seems like the best way to go about it. All I do know is it's fucking epic. It's an awesome show. These guys put on an awesome show. If you get the opportunity, go see the Melvins. You will not regret it. They put on a fucking awesome show. Anyway, continuing on. And also, I ran into King Buzzo right before the show. I feel like such a doof. I got all starstruck, and he's walking down the street eating something with one of the guys that he's going to go on stage with, I think. And I'm like, "Are you enjoying the town?" And he's like, and just like kept walking, like kind of quick. And I'm sure I looked kind of threatening or something. I don't know. Anyway. My apologies, King Buzzo. It's a fantastic show. Hope the rest of your tour is fucking awesome. Or at least as good as it was at the WoW Hall. Anyway. So yeah, we were talking about this blockchain consulting firm extorting crypto startup. Yeah. That's something that happened a lot during the whole ICO boom. And it's really a shame, too, because I have very little doubt that some quality projects were taken out by such scammers. But this is nothing new. We're talking about money, and people keep trying to forget that and conceal it and omit it and not talk about it. But we're talking about money. We're talking about money that can be sent anywhere, anytime to anyone on planet Earth. without the assistance of a bank or a government or knowledge or permission or whatever. That's what we're talking about. So, of course, greedy bastards are going to come out of the woodwork and be trying to scam people out of their legitimately earned coin and or US dollars, fiat currency, whatever. It's going to happen. But again, I would rather participate in a market where I know there is no mommy, there is no daddy, the fucking SEC, CFTC can't do shit to protect me, can't do shit to repatriate my funds to my wallet, cannot help me, is not in control of this shit. I would rather be going into the market with that full knowledge, that full awareness, because it's going to make me do additional steps to secure my motherfucking funds. It is going to make me pay attention to shit like white papers and other people, and what other people are saying about a project, what the actual use is, and what they're getting out of it. You know, when I got an SEC or a CFTC and I see the stamp of approval, I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, great. You know, these guys have put forward their prospectus, they put forward all their information, the SEC signed off on it, it's all good, it's all regulated, it's all licensed, my money's good here. But then you have people like JP Morgan's traders manipulating the fucking price of the shit that you're trading in, the shit that you're investing in. You don't know it. You're under the assumption that, hey, everything's cool. You know, it's got the CFTC signature. It's got the SEC stamp of approval. Everything is cool, right? No, everything is not cool. The illusion that regulation does anything to make us safer is what is endangering the fucking markets. Okay? There is no mommy or daddy that can help you out here. And especially if you're investing in cryptocurrencies, there's not even an FDIC to give you your fucking Bitcoin back. And there never will be. The people that lie to you and tell you that there can be or there may be they're fucking lying to you. That's why I always say at the end of the show, watch out for your own bunghole because nobody else is going to do it for you. This is a truism in crypto especially. And so, yeah, you have to operate under the assumption that your shit is always surveilled, that whatever lapses you're doing in your personal security are potential lapses that will cost you money. And you have to treat it like that. Because if you don't, then you go fucking up and you download some stupid ass wallet that's got mining software in the background, it's mining shit in your fucking phone, it's lagging down your phone, it's sucking up your minutes. You don't know anything about it, of course, because you're kind of ignorant and nobody bothered to tell you anything. You know? And then you go and you deposit money into that wallet and you look at your balance one day and it's fucking zero and you're like, oh, what happened there, right? Well, you know, the company that issued it, you found it on the Google Play Store, so you assumed that Google did some sort of fucking audit on this thing, man. They had to verify that it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it doesn't do anything else in the background, and it's not going to fuck you. They don't do that. I find stuff all over from the Google Play Store where the shit just fucks up, and they don't catch it. So anyway. This next thing I got here, it's on ccn.com. The U.S. quietly printed $75 billion out of thin air for the banks. This is why Bitcoin matters. Federal Reserve Bank of New York very quietly handed out $75 billion in cash to the banks on Wednesday in a process known as repurchase operation or repo. This emergency measure hasn't been used at scale for a decade since the last financial crisis. It's a reminder of the central bank's power to artificially expand the money supply and devalue your money. This is why Bitcoin, with its capped supply and strict predictable output, matters. And just to let you know, this is a little thing that I keep bringing up on this show, but it bears repeating. Before the existence of stablecoins, when the Fed would do something like this, all kinds of additional value would go into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin would appreciate against the US dollar. However, recently, Bitcoin tanked about $450 in just a few minutes. If you can't see where I'm going with this, then you're just not paying attention. The Bitcoin relationship to US dollars is interfered with by the existence and use of stable coins in the stead of US dollars. See, I happen to believe that the issuers of stable coins are in fact the closest thing to what the SEC should be regulating as a quote-unquote security, because there is an issuer who has a decoupled sum of collateral that they are issuing tokens against in the stead of US dollars, supposedly valuated at approximately a 1-to-1 ratio. But see, I don't think they actually have the money. And in essence, when they issue new tokens, new USDTs or fucking USDCs or whatever the fuck it is, the stable coin, when they issue them into existence, they don't have the collateral. But an exchange is willing to acknowledge them as being the equivalent or a proxy for the US dollar. And that's why you have all these fucking tankings going on cryptocurrencies. It doesn't make any sense. It should not be happening. It should be going up in value. Every time they say, we printed off another $100 billion, dude, that should make Bitcoin go up. It did every other time when they printed QE, when they were injecting $100 billion into the economy a month through the banks. That made the price of Bitcoin go up in relative value to US dollars. But again, we're not seeing this coupling anymore, and so it's my contention that all of the appreciation is being sucked out of the market on the exchange rate with stable coins. That's just my feeling. Anyway. So yeah, they printed up $75 billion. What the hell going on? Fed injects $75 billion into financial system, and that was by Holger Spitz. Yeah, and got this big old chart. What is the repo operation? In simple terms, the central bank prints $75 billion and makes it available to commercial banks for a 24-hour period. In exchange, the banks post treasury bonds and other assets as collateral. It gives the banks instant liquidity for the overnight money market, where banks execute short-term loans with each other. As CCN previously explained, quote, banks get the overnight capital they need by pledging collateral, usually treasury bonds, in exchange for cash. When the Fed provides the cash, they basically print the money in exchange for the securities. Sign of a crisis? It's a canary in the coal mine. It means liquidity has dried up in the overnight money markets. The banks desperately needed liquid cash to trade and lend each other overnight. The first warning sign came as the overnight interest rate shot above 10%, up from the typical 2%. The Fed had to step in to ease the liquidity crisis. Why does this even happen? German reporter Holger Spitz summed it up in the simple line, quote, it looks like banks were suddenly short of cash. And the tweet that he puts out is, dramatic moves in the money market that led to U.S. Central Bank shunting $53 billion into the system on Tuesday show that the unexpected can still occur even in the era of tight bank regulation and relative fin stability. It looked like banks were suddenly out of cash. Quote, and the New York Fed admitted themselves that the most likely cause is dwindling reserves at the banks. Quote, Upward pressure on overnight interest rates is one of the most direct indicators that reserves are becoming scarce. And that was a quote by Lori Logan, head of market operations and market analysis at the New York Fed back in 2017. In other words, the banks are not holding enough cash. A slippery repo slope. I should point out that the repo operation is a short-term weapon. The Fed injects liquidity and the banks pay it back in 24 hours. It only becomes a true problem when the repo operation extends day after day. We're on day 2. While it's not a crisis yet, the slippery slope to a much bigger monetary easing policy, it increases the likelihood of bringing back quantitative easing, the Federal Reserve bond buying program. It also comes on the day the Federal Reserve is widely expected to slash interest rates. This is why Bitcoin matters. The trend here is obvious. Monetary easing is back in a big way. Stimulus, low interest rates, QE. Since the 2008 crisis, these tools have flooded the U.S. money supply and weakened the purchasing power of the dollar. And this is a tweet by Alex Rampell. Lehman Brothers filed for the largest ever bankruptcy 11 years ago on September 15, 2008. Many things changed that day, but the most lasting impact is arguably what happened to the money supply. What a chart. The money supply just shot up. Bitcoin is different. Bitcoin cannot be manipulated by central banks. Well, yes it can. BTC has a hard-coded 21 million cap that can never be changed. That's not true either. No entity can print more or set artificial lending rates. That's true. Bitcoin's daily supply is predictable, with its monetary policy known decades in advance. Not necessarily. It's deflationary in nature, designed to increase in value so long as demand increases. Meanwhile, central banks are fighting to lower the value of their currencies, in doing so destroying the long-term value of your savings. Central banks are wildly printing money while Bitcoin chugs along, methodically producing one block after another, every 10 minutes as designed. Time to choose order and predictability over chaos. Not necessarily. You're going to have chaos anyway. And I kept making comments in there about the validity of those statements. And what is to be acknowledged, and this author does not. And who authored this thing, by the way? This is by... I'm sure I stated it once. Maybe not. It just says it's by ccn.com, so it's probably somebody else's article and shit. But anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, they make some omissions about the way that Bitcoin operates. You know, there's a 21 million cap because the miners have accepted that. Now, if at some point or another the miners, the majority of the miners that is, should decide that they want to alter their path, that's not predictable. I mean, to some extent it is, because the software implementations are usually put out on GitHub or something like that well in advance, and people make a decision as to whether or not they want to flag support for it. But like, what if they were to make like a really big change? Like, you know, they stopped flagging support for BP9 or any of the ones that are related to the change to SegWit. And instead, they acknowledge an implementation that has bigger block capacities, say 4 to 8 megabytes. If not having zero block size limit. This is possible. You know, it is all possible, but What's necessary in order to facilitate that is either a glitch that allows an intent attacker to take advantage of some glitch in the network that allows them to get ahead of it and double spend or some other bullshit. That's a possibility. But again, the perpetual nature that they're kind of espousing with regard to Bitcoin, it is subject to change, but a lot of fucking effort has to be put towards changing it. A lot of people have to agree with one another, or again, there's some glitch that allows an intent attacker to get some additional advantage. But I don't know, so far we haven't seen too much of that. I mean, we see exploits come up now and then. They still happen. As a matter of fact, there was an exploit, I guess, on the Lightning Network, and I didn't ever get into that one. Let's see here. Lightning... Damn it, I'm off by a key. Lightning... exploit. Let's see what there is here. Go news. No, not Minecraft. Jesus Christ. Bitcoin. Lightning bug illuminates trouble for Bitcoin scaling. Maybe. There we go. And this one's on cryptovest.com. Lightning Network encounters exploit. And this was authored when? I guess this is September 11th. A Lightning Network Bitcoin second layer solution has seen an exploit of a known vulnerability. Bitcoin BTC Lightning Network, the second layer speed solution, may have faced an exploit leading to the loss of funds. Based on the developer's messaging list, a known bug has been exploited already, and this may happen again unless an upgrade is implemented. Quote, "We've confirmed the instances of the CVE being exploited in the wild. If you're not on the following versions of either of these implementations, these versions are fully patched, then you need to upgrade now to avoid the risk of funds loss," explained the developers. The risk is related to using outdated versions of the software required to run nodes. Using the right updated versions mitigates the risk. Node operators are urged to upgrade the following cases. On CVE 2019 12998 C Lightning version, I guess, or greater than 0.71 or 0.7.1. CVE 2019 through 12.999, LND version 0.0, CVE 2019 through 13,000, Eclair version equals greater than or equal to 0.3. The Lightning Network is still considered experimental, and the amount of funds circulating between nodes is limited to avoid more significant losses. Nodes only hold a limited amount of Bitcoin, which is growing slowly. And let's see, quote, "While everyone is watching price, Bitcoin is scaling quietly in the background with Lightning Network, blah, blah, blah. Last year, 1,622 nodes, worth approximately $691,000 at 108 BTC. Today, 4,769 nodes at $8.6 million US capacity at 844 Bitcoin, the true bull run." Yeah, whatever. To compare, a relatively small Binance hack took away 7 Bitcoin, still higher than all the coins circulated with, 7,000 Bitcoin, still higher than all the coins circulated within the LN. But in the future, the second layer network may attract more users and lead to the potential for greater exploits. The network also allows for entities to take over nodes and channels, achieving large-scale influence in the movement of coins. A visualization of the network shows there are now more participants and interconnections, but a handful of nodes participate as relays for a large number of channels. At this point, the usage of Lightning Network goes beyond experimental enthusiasts, as it has been integrated into mainstream products. The StakeNet wallet is one such service, promising direct access to the LN. Yeah, whatever. Even Coinbase users can partially access LN transactions through the Bit refill service. Limited opportunities to buy LN-based BTC are available through a debit card. The Bitcoin network itself carries upwards of 300,000 transactions on a usual day, with the occasional spike in network load. Yeah. So, basically, I think that there are probably other known exploits, and they are simply not disclosed yet. And I don't see the Lightning Network as the way to increase the use of Bitcoin for the average user. I really believe that on-chain scaling is the way to go, such as a bigger block size limit or the elimination of the block size limit. Let the number of transactions be as big as they are. That way the miners can be appropriately, paid back for their investment in the network. And I believe we'd see a lot less potential for manipulation. And, also a drop in threat surfaces. The fact of the matter is the way that LNs are set up, they're set up to where you want to be processing the highest number of transactions that you possibly can within your payment channel to raise the amount of fees that are associated with the transactions in that payment channel. So when you cash out on it, you cash out. When you close the payment channel, you make a significant profit while everybody else is paid back. But you need to be able to hold that payment channel open for a long time, and you need to be doing business with a lot of other people. And this is where I think a lot of people just they don't understand. That this is going to create, if it were to become the way that we travel with regard to Bitcoin, it'll create a whole hierarchy of third-party intermediaries that will have a hold of your funds at one point or another and may or may not pay them back. And the more of those you have, the higher the possibility that one of them is going to walk away with the funds. It's a simple fact. However, Lightning rewards the higher connectivity and bigger participants, i.e. centralization. If we were talking about mining, we would say it's centralization. But we're not talking about mining, so it's all cool, right? No. A third party trusted intermediary is the same no matter where we're talking about them. If we're talking about them as a facilitator of all your payments, or simply an exchange that you're operating with. They have the same control over your funds. They have the same capability of walking away with your funds. And to regard them as any different is just silly. At this point we have a higher number of low-level participants that are experimenting with it, and that's cool. But the problem is that over time, the transactions to establish payment channels are going to become more expensive. As Bitcoin rises in value, the relative value of those transaction fees that you have to pay to get a Bitcoin transaction on their blockchain goes up. And eventually it's going to be high enough that you are not going to be able to afford to set up your own payment channels. You will have to rely on a third-party intermediary who's doing it for millions of people. And you're not going to be that third-party intermediary. Sorry. You're better off utilizing the electricity and time and bandwidth that you're dedicating to an LN node to mining. At least then you would actually be getting a return. At least then when you sell it back to the market, however much Bitcoin you make from it, You determine the price for it. You say, no, I think I want $11,000 for it, and you put your fucking limit order up for $11,000, and so it'll have to come up to at least that for other people to get your goddamn Bitcoin. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. I got Slipknot playing in the background, but we already played them, so we're not going to go back. Let's go with a little bit of Killing Joke, the Death and Resurrection Show, here on Coin Metal. And that was Slayer with Live Undead. I love that song. Anywho, as far as what else we have on the grill today, dig around here. And this, I think, is like a continuation on what we had just touched on. So I'm not sure that we really want to go with that. I think I have other shit going on here. No, not that one. Not that one. Oh, yeah, that one. So, it turns out that the saga of Craig is not over. And I got this thing on CoinWorld360.com. Craig Wright asks for 30-day extension to delay 500K Bitcoin payout. And this is by Levi Hughes, or Levi Hughes. So I'm just going to assume yes. Penis. September 18th, 2019. No indication of time zone. Damn you, Levi. Continuing on. Craig Wright, a self-proclaimed inventor of Bitcoin, BTC, has asked for another extension of a deadline to settle his case involving the late partner Dave Kleeman. Wright entered negotiations. On September 17th, Wright's attorneys filed a 30-day extension for all discovery and case deadlines, citing the need to facilitate the ongoing discussions with Dave Kleeman's estate as the parties have entered, quote, extensive settlement negotiations. According to the document, Wright's lawyers and Kleeman's estate have reached a non-binding agreement to settle the matter and are continuing to negotiate and finalize all relevant terms. Citing a number of upcoming case deadlines, such as Wright's opposition to Judge Reinhardt's sanctions order that is due on September 24th, and the plaintiff's motion for attorney's fees due on September 20th, the defendant partly claimed that reaching a final binding settlement is, quote, the best interests of both parties, and this requires the extension period. 30 more days after a 2-week extension. Following the court's order on August 26 requiring Wright to hand over 50% of the roughly 1 million Bitcoin Wright allegedly mined with Kleeman, Wright's attorney, Andreas Rivero, first filed for a 14-day extension on August 30th. In the filing, Wright's party also intended to challenge Reinhardt's order in favor of David Kleeman's estate, which required him to pay 500,000 Bitcoin, arguing that Wright did not concede that the judge had the power to enter the order. In late August, Wright suggested that David Kleeman's estate could experience tax issues with Bitcoins they won from him in the court case. Yeah, okay. Well, see, the thing is they actually have to receive the funds first. Then it will show his income. Then they will be liable for some sort of taxation, although I don't believe they should be, because it's basically just an exchange of property here. However, see, I think what's really going on is supposedly at some point or another, Craig Wright had gone to David Kleeman's estate and absconded with some hardware. And the assumption has always been that what Craig seized was in fact hard drives that contained the keys of 1 million Bitcoin, or roughly, it's like 900,000 something or other Bitcoin. However, he's issued no proof. He's given no proof whatsoever that he actually has access to the funds. Now, what has been supposed at a couple points, and I think this is kind of legitimate, if in fact he did seize hard drives that have the Bitcoin on them, he is currently trying to decrypt them, because supposedly they were encrypted volumes, and so he's trying to crack them right now. And so this extension, I would believe, if in fact that is what's going on, I believe this extension is the fact he doesn't have access to the funds. He's still trying to steal the funds. And he hasn't stolen them yet, which is why he's saying, dude, give me a little extension here, because he doesn't have access to the funds. And I don't know, I've always believed that the more extraordinary the claim he's made, the less likely it is to be true. So like the claim that he has access to the 1 million Bitcoin, I don't believe that's true at all. I don't believe any of the trusts are real, and I don't believe he has actual legitimate access to those funds. I don't believe it. The claim that he's Satoshi Nakamoto, his behavior says no. When you look at Bitcoin, the white paper of Bitcoin, it was pretty clear that Satoshi wanted people to participate in this. Craig Wright's behavior is entirely opposite that. His whole plan for BSV is that only a tiny number of people are actually mining it, because only a tiny number of people can afford the hardware that is required by their transaction load. But again, you have to have actual users using your coin in order to have a transaction load worth giving a shit about. There's been accusations flying all around too that there have been entities that have been uselessly occupying block space in order to inflate the number of transactions and give the appearance that BSV is actually being used. The fact of the matter is that shit's going on Bitcoin. And as a matter of fact, I caught this while I was on here, and if I can find it really quick, I'm gonna read about it here for you. Let's see here. If I look it up on my profile, it'd probably be the easiest way to go about it. Tweets and replies. Here we go. This guy posted this thing, Derek McGill posted on Twitter, Bitcoin Core subsidized block space costs with SegWit, and many are now hilariously upset that a company is exploiting it. Actually, I don't think that the people that are doing it are all that upset about it, but anyway, continuing on, the first tweet that initiated this was actually from Luke Jr., and he says, so it turns out, not so surprisingly, that spammers are abusing SegWit's block size increase to gain an advantage over legit Bitcoin users. Reducing the block size limit could rebalance this unfair advantage bad incentive SegWit has created. Yeah, he's full of shit there too. But the one that he was replying to is by Sergey Kotlier. It turns out there's only one entity that does on the order of 50,000 transactions per day and brags about it. That's right, Veriblock. And let me see if I can actually... No, I can't do that. At Zigamon, let's see if I can find his profile directly. Because apparently Luke Jr. has blocked me, so yeah. Zigamon. Come on. Let's try that one. Let's see. Oh, I can see him. Good. Oh, and shit, it gives me the tweet that I even want. Here we go. It turns out there's only one entity that does on the order of 50,000 transactions per day and brags about it. That's right, Veriblock. Oh, yeah, here it is. So we've been celebrating that the percentage of SegWit transactions went above 50% in the past weeks. In fact, the number of Betch32 transactions increased 100 to 200%. So I did a little digging for this entity, and boy, are you going to like it. That's right, Veriblock. Veriblock is the hero Bitcoin deserves, but not the one it needs right now. Let's see here. It sounds like many, not one entities are creating transactions. No, that's not really the case, it looks like here. Oh, and Derek McGill liked that one. Yeah, but my response to all of this has been fucking duh. There isn't anything new about this. I reported like 2 months ago that VeriBlock was occupying at least 45% of the blocks with their transactions. Lots of people have said that the level of traffic isn't even necessary for what they're doing. Meanwhile, maxis are bragging about a jump in SegWit use. Really what you're seeing is declining Bitcoin use by quote users and increasing percentage of the blocks being occupied by VeriBlock's spam. Yeah. You know, this is predictable. You know, if we had bigger blocks, their ability to suck up all the available block space would not be there. And they'd probably actually have to compete for the transaction fees too. But yeah. So let's see here. I got another one here. Might want to go into that one. Want to go into that one. Now we covered that one. Maybe. Might do this one. We covered Craig. Federal Reserve ran ink on low on ink today. And that was another thing that I wanted to touch on with that $75 billion. And this is on Zero Hedge. Liquidity shortage getting worse. Fed's repo oversubscribed as funding demand soars 50% overnight. And this was authored by Tyler Durden, Wednesday, September 18th, 2019 at 11:45. No indication of AM or PM, nor time zone. Pah, Tyler. Anyway, continuing. 20 minutes after today's repo operation began, it concluded that there was some bad news in it. As we feared, yesterday's take-up of the Fed's repo operation, which peaked at $53.2 billion, has expanded substantially. And according to the Fed, today there was a whopping $80.05 billion in bids submitted, an increase of $27 billion or 50% more than yesterday. It also meant that since the operation, which is capped at $75 billion, was oversubscribed by over $5 billion, that there was one or more participants who did not get up to $5 billion in the critical liquidity they needed. And that the Fed will see a chorus of demands by everyone, because like with the discount window, nobody will dare to be singled out. To either expand the size of its operations, implement a fixed operation, and or most likely, as per the ICAP note yesterday, transition to a permanent open market operations, i.e. QE. Let's see here. And looking at an image here of the volume, and see Treasury 51,550 submitted, accepted. Interesting. By comparison, this was yesterday's whatever. What is immediately notable is that except for agency paper, there was a greater use of both Treasury, $40.9 billion to $51.6 billion, and mortgage-backed $11.7 billion to $27.88 $27.8 billion. My apologies. Collateral. The only silver lining, the step-out rate on emergent or agency paper dropped from 3% to 2.1%. However, with virtually nobody using that, it is a largely meaningless easing in terms. Finally, the worst news is that immediately after the operation, overnight repo remained elevated, with Reuters reporting that the rate was 2.25% to 2.6% after the latest repo operation, confirming that the liquidity shortage continues, with the high end of repo still far above Fed funds. Yesterday's Fed repo operation, the first direct liquidity injection in a decade, was an unmitigated disaster, with the NY Fed forced to cancel it in the middle due to, quote, technical difficulties, which nobody still knows what they were, only to resume it moments later. All we can say is that today the Fed better not fuck this up again, especially with New York Fed President John Williams, Senior Vice President of Market Operations Lori Logan, and First Vice President Michael Strine, all expected to be in Washington for the Fed's two-day central bank meeting. In any case, moments ago the NY Fed announced that, as expected, today's repo operation started at 8:14 a.m. as expected, with the repo rate trading quite elevated around 2.8% and the SOFR trading bizarrely above 5%. With such mind-boggling volatility, SOFR will certainly make a great LIBOR replacement. Check back here at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time for the results. It will be interesting if the total uptake today is over yesterday's $53 billion. That will suggest that the problem is getting worse, not better. Let's see here. Let's dive into some of the responses. Captain Nemo D. Erwan says, $5 billion, I need you tonight. Yeah, there you go. I Wrote Code says, so all the EU banks, if not the ECB itself, are taking their trillions in negative bonds, buying U.S. treasuries, pocketing the arbitrage, and waiting for the U.S. to also go into negative interest rate policy. Meanwhile, U.S. banks are doing that as best they can, too. They've scraped up all the money from between the couch cushions and bought T-bonds in a bet that the Fed will capitulate and crash long rates, which they don't even control directly. So they will crash short rates, and by witchcraft, the long rates will fall too, rather. Even the new nominal treasuries will yield zero or negative. Trump will throw a party. This is what he wants, right? This isn't quite how I envisioned it, nor Powell either, I think, but neither of us counted on the ECB. Yeah. Batman 11 says, one of Max Kaiser's guests had the good analogy of the markets. You have all the visible markets and the huge opaque derivatives market, which is like a wrecking ball that swings around unseen. How many trillions in derivatives went haywire with that oil price shock? Oh God, I don't even want to fucking think about that shit yet. Let's see. Thrawn says, please do not overwork your tiny pea-brain noodle. If all you want America is to be great again, all you have to do is understand that this is satanic system that we've been under for more than 100 years has to be destroyed. Together with the rats created the system so that the new gold-backed currency can be born. Yeah, whatever. I don't think so, dude. Let's see here. And you Brexit, you pay for it says, I'm not sure exactly when I found Zero Hedge, but it was a while ago, and this article looks suspiciously familiar. Is this going to be a Groundhog Decade, destined to forever relive 2009 through 2019? What fun! At least I know what not to buy this time. Stocks are us. Very good, very good. J. Morpheus says, I would be the first person to call out the Fed if this was something nefarious or obfuscatory. It is not. Banks, particularly primary dealer banks, finance the Treasury's needs by partaking in auctions and trading bonds. They have to finance or margin those bonds. They do this via repurchase agreements every day. In the repo market, they get liquidity from money market funds, corporate treasurers, and other banks with excessive reserves. Banks don't pay 100 cents for bonds they position on their trading desks. Their entire position matchbook is financed by repos, longs and shorts, all financed. How else could a primary dealer throw around $500 million T-bills and like it was a 100 lot of IBM stock? At the institutional dealer level, the numbers are astronomical. $1 billion T-bill trades are common. For the past 10 years, just after the crash, unabashed liquidity has been sloshing around the system. Recently, with all the QT going on, draining reserves from the system, yesterday the primary dealer financing and money market reached equilibrium, and this was reflected in the tightness and thus higher RP rates. The dealers called the Fed, who also saw the higher repo rates, and the Fed did repos, and asked the dealers to deliver them $52 billion worth of bonds in their inventory as collateral for one night, and wired them in $52 billion. The dealers still own these bonds, but they pledged them to the Fed, and the Fed agreed to wire them money. The next day, the Fed will return the bonds and want the $52 billion back. This is a very, very, very common practice for decades prior to 10 years ago, when they decided to just flood the dealer M1, M2, and M3 market with liquidity. So yesterday was indeed a moment, but not this hyperbolic moment most of the kids on the board think it was, or Team Tyler is ranting about. It was not a crisis of confidence, collateral, or credit. It was largely technical M1, M2, M3 issues with reserve funds in circulation, and they provided more liquidity. Primary dealer banks have always used repo to finance their positions. The Fed has always used OMO to manage the amount of reserves in the system for banks to finance their positions. Do not confuse this with the easing, like the Fed funds rate. And I'm going to pause that off because this guy wrote like a book and there's another page to it. And it is with that I'd like to close out this episode. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And as far as our last dance is concerned, I've been dying to play these guys all night, but I haven't. And so here it is, Skindred, Nobody, here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.